Yeah, I think we're somewhere around 50 trillion usages of music a year.
Could you give us, I don't know, a couple, 3 bits of advice, pearls of advice for new talent?
The most important thing you can do is to tell us about your music.
A job satisfaction for me is that I represent a songwriter or an artist and try to get them as much money as possible.
And essentially, like you say, it's an asset class, and people buying that want to make money from it.
It's all very well and good, but you need to have a good rate on that. They might be taking 99% of that. So
yeah, and in the deal, there might be different splits for
correct.
different types of usage, right? You must always seek independent legal advice whenever you're looking at those deals, because not so much these days, but back in the 50s and 60s, these were life of copyright.
Yeah.
So that's your entire life, and then 70 years after that, your money is going to be paid this way.
Hi, and welcome to SRLV's latest This Is Not Just a Number podcast. I'm here with Big Tone. Well, I know him as Tony, but Tony Barton, for everyone who doesn't know, Director of Writer Relations at PRS for Music. CMO, so Collection Management Organisation, responsible for ensuring music creators get paid for their copyrights registered and works.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Took a lot of strings to pull to get you in it, but no, you said yes straight away, so I appreciate it. But I'll start off by saying, obviously, PRS are synonymous with grassroots music and emerging talent. So, first of all, would you tell us what PRS is, for anyone who don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So PRS is a collective management organisation. Colloquially, are probably better known as a society. So we're there to enable people that want to use music to use it legally. So if you look at the name, the idea was if someone says, I want to use music, where do I go? I go to PRS for music. But PRS ultimately is a society of songwriters, composers, and publisher members who assign their copyright and their music to us, which enables us to then license that music to any company that wants to use music. So essentially, wherever you're hearing music in the UK, be it on the radio or telly, at a gig, or if you're streaming it, those people providing that opportunity to hear that music have licensed it through us. So we're kind of an intermediary between people that create the music, or the talent, or people that want to use that music for whatever business.
And what kind of examples would they be? Just in layman's terms, who would be licensing it from you? So
from a local pub up to Wembley Stadium, from a brand new podcast who has music, through to Spotify, YouTube, to Sony PlayStation, Twitch, really anything you can think of. Sports centers, Peloton, anyone that's using music, they need to have a license for that. And for the people that create that music, for the songwriters and the composers, at whichever stage in their career, they need to have us out there doing that for them, because to try and do that yourself would be practically impossible. So we kind of sit in the middle, trying to make everything as streamlined and quick and efficient as possible, because really we want our members to be creating. We want them to have trust that we're there doing our job on their behalf, which is what they sign up for, making sure that wherever their music's used, be it here in the UK or around the world, that we're going to identify that, get that to them as quickly as possible. So it's a fairly pivotal company if you are making music.
Well, it's fundamental. You wouldn't really make money without it. So when you see the PRS sticker, PPL sticker on the recording side, that's what it is. It's a barbershop who've got their sticker up. They've paid their license fee for the year. They pay you guys, and then you distribute to all the music creators that have signed up to you.
Exactly.
And they own royalties.
Yeah, I think we're somewhere around 50 trillion usages of music a year.
Bloody hell. Really?
Yeah. So
is that vinyls and CDs, is it?
Yeah. Well, when I started, ringtones.
It's not getting to age.
No, exactly. So
50 trillion, right? So that's a lot of data.
50 trillion usages per year. It's massive data.
Yeah.
But that all adds up. Yeah. And the writers and the publishers that look after them are entitled to that money. So.
Okay, well, that's a good explanation. Thanks for that. Yeah. So because you're so central to that ecosystem of royalties, I think you're well placed to give a couple of bits of advice. So could you give us, I don't know, a couple, 3 bits of advice, pearls of advice for new talent in the industry today, which is obviously very different, we just alluded to, how they should go about things, what's really important, what are a couple of really important points for them to focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting off, it can be so like bamboozling,
especially if they're the creator.
If you're the creator,
Usually
and normally you're quite young, so you're kind of the creative bit comes before you think of the business bit. And I think with copyright being something intangible, it's not like, if you design a car, you don't go make a car. There's your car. You can see the car. If you want to sell the car, there's your car.
The car's the music, right?
Essentially. So if you're creating music, I can absolutely understand youngsters not understanding how they then can make money from that. So firstly, we want people to understand that what they're doing has a value, and they're entitled as the owner of that to make money from that. So we've created together with a couple of the other industry groups a thing called the Get Paid Guide, which is online. You can find it, just Google Get Paid Guide, and it shows you in really simple terminology how this all works, how you can get paid for your music, so, as it says. So that one of those really important things is for writers to understand at what stage they should be thinking about joining PRS, potentially PPL. I'll let them talk about that on their episode. Because we don't want people to spend the money joining PRS, because there's a one-off admission fee, and then after that we're working for you for your entire life.
Yeah, and it's pretty inexpensive, let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly. It's £100 if you're over 25 or 30.
People hearing this might go, it's a couple of grand.
Yeah, no. It's £100 if you're over 25 or £30 if you're under 25. So we don't want them to pay that and then not get anything back in royalties. So we kind of have on our website a guide of what are you doing at the moment? Are you playing gigs? Are you playing open mic nights? Have you got stuff on streaming? If you have, then this is the time to join. And then this is what you need to do. So the first thing I would say is have a look at the Get Paid Guide, have a look at our website so you can see when is the right time. So fundamental, find out who you are in our world, and then find out how we are going to be in your world.
Yeah.
Once you've done that, then it's about going, there's so much jargon. It's so complicated initially, but there's loads and loads of people that are going to help you. So it's then looking around and going, right, who am I going to need kind of in my team that are going to be able to help me? And for a lot of youngsters, they may have a manager, they may get to a point where they have a publisher, they then start building a team of accountants, lawyers, whatever. So it's understanding who's going to help me. So that's about looking kind of further down the line. But really, when you join PRS, the number one thing I always tell everybody, the most important thing you can do is to tell us about your music. Because if we don't know you've written it, we can't pay you. We can't identify you as the writer and the owner of that music. So by doing that, it's called registering your works.
Right.
So work is kind of if you've created a song or to a symphony.
Yeah.
It's in legal terms.
Is that why
it's
I'm publishing it's a work?
Exactly.
It could be a composition.
Exactly. Yeah. It could be a track.
But it's effectively.
Exactly. Different music makers describe what they do in different ways. So we use the kind of overall work term.
And we have to say music creators now because there's various different guys.
Exactly.
Especially in this world.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have to register.
So essentially telling us I've written the song that's called this. I've collaborated with these people.
Yeah.
It's this long, and if it's been recorded, I've recorded it, and here's the details. So what that does, that starts building up your catalogue in our systems, which means we know what you've written, and then we start putting all those bits of that together so that we've got an overall picture of the full 100% of who created that with you, if you collaborated.
Will they always, sorry to interrupt, but will they always know, say there are co-creators or co-writers, a lot of the guys that I've dealt with, especially the young ones who are just coming in and they're all just in the studio and whatever, kind of making the music, wherever they are writing it. Sometimes they haven't got those percentages. You wrote it 33.33, I wrote it 30. I mean, what would they do in that scenario? Would they speak to someone at PRS to say, like, you kind of need to have that because there could be problems down the line?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than retrospectively.
Absolutely.
When you register, you have to say, I wrote 100%, I wrote 50%.
Yeah, one of
to work that out.
Absolute pearl of advice, like you say, is make those decisions as you're making the music.
Okay.
So when you're in the room, once you've completed a track, have that agreed between you all. That could be
awkward though, couldn't it?
Which can be awkward, absolutely.
But it needs to happen.
It's far more awkward down the line when you're not being paid because we've got a claim of 150%.
Yeah.
So it can be awkward, and we know a lot of creators find that sort of thing quite intimidating, but ultimately that's going to lead to you being paid or not being paid.
Yeah, and I've seen some. It's better to be awkward with probably your mates.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably did about 20% there, Dave. Do you know what I mean? But I've seen problems down the road where you hear of these stories that people outside of the music industry go, "Oh, bands always split up, or they've always got disputes about royalties."
Yeah.
one of the big reasons is that from the beginning,
Absolutely.
they split it appropriately. And they go, well, I wrote half of that.
Yeah. And it's when they fall out that they then decide, let's sort out the copyright.
Let's do it 10 years down the line when we're actually earning money.
Exactly. And so when that happens, we keep licensing the music. So the money's still coming in, but we can't pay it.
Yeah.
So that gets held up, and that just becomes, it just delays everything for everybody. So you're absolutely right. It's funny because you find a lot of creative people can like bear their innermost thoughts and their feelings into the music
in the song,
but then to talk to their mate about, well, is it 50-50? Did I actually do more? And we can't decide that. It's not for us to say, okay, so you wrote the melody and the lyrics, so you get more than the person that did the drums. Like, that's not for us.
Yeah, they've got to
so
work it out.
And our members don't want us making those decisions, so we're like, you decide it, tell us. So if you can get that nailed down as you're writing the track, that track may not even come out for another 2 years. But a part of what I see daily is money that's held up because these people can't agree with each other. So fundamentally, it's kind of like, one of the things we say is that, yes, you're a creative person, you're a composer, you're a writer, you're also a small business. And part of that means you have to do admin. And part of that admin is registering your works with us.
Yeah,
agreeing
pass
those
off
details.
as much as they can.
Yeah, exactly.
To
But
people like
especially
us.
right at the start, when you don't necessarily have a team around you doing this stuff for you, it's really good to learn that first. Because when things hopefully go really well and you're so busy, you're off touring or whatever, you haven't got time to do that, and you're trusting other people. So it's funny, when I started at PRS, I started in our copyright department.
Was this back in the 70s?
Not far off. Cheeky. But I started in the copyright department, which I'm really glad, because everything that I've kind of done since then, royalties, all the legal stuff, ultimately, if the copyright is right, the copyright, everything else just flows.
Yeah.
We can match everything. We can tell all of the equivalents of PRS around the world that this writer and that writer wrote this song together and they've split it 50-50. So send the money. Everything just flows. And then bands don't break up. Friends don't fall out.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Exactly.
Yeah. It's one of the things that's, off the cards now.
Yeah. I mean, look how many bands we know and love that have broken up.
Yeah.
And you never really know why. Some of them I know why. And it's down to things like this.
And we can't say too much of things we do know. I know examples of the other way around. It's a well-known, really successful client of ours. And they were kind of a double act. That makes it sound like it was comedy, but, musicians. And there was one of the guys that basically wrote everything. The other guy, of course, was part of the composition and that, but he effectively said, look, let's put it down as 50-50. We're a creative team together and might have inspired each other or whatever. You can't you, do it the other way around? But if you wrote everything, but they tell you, as you said, you can't tell them. They say to you, just put it down as 50-50. There might be friends, generous people.
Yeah.
You can do it that way as well. So there are good stories as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also get there's some very savvy bands who are obviously very good at what they do. They've had advice from industry professionals like SRLV and others who have sort of said, like, we think you're great. We think you've got huge potential. You can do some things early on that will hopefully extend that. And there's a very, very big band from this country who looked at a very, very big Irish band and went, why are they still together? Why is it still the original members that have been going for decades? They haven't had these problems. And someone told them, well, it's because of the way they split the money. They've agreed we're a band. How it's created in the studio is an organic process. So yes, one person might write the lyrics and one person might come up with the hook or the melody. But ultimately, we created it together and they split everything equally. So this other band, this English band, from day one said, we're going to do it that way. And they're still together.
Yeah. I
Absolutely
think
world level. And it's like, that's not always right. Sometimes you do have very creative, different
a
balances.
lead character amongst it. But
But if in your example, you agree at the time, like, no. Okay, I might have done the lion's share of the work, but we created this together, so 50-50.
And in my example, it was the same as yours. They stayed together.
Yeah.
And
but don't come back 10 years later and go, actually, no, that guy only wrote 5% and I wrote 95%.
What would happen in that scenario?
Well, we would consider it settled copyright. Right. So after 6 years, you can't add another writer in unless everyone agrees, or you can't change the shares unless everyone agrees.
Okay, so all parties have to agree.
All parties have to agree, yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, do you know what? I think that's a really good bit of advice.
Absolutely. Honestly, really, if you can get that agreed
from the start.
And it makes everyone else's life easier.
It makes all of our lives easier, yeah,
exactly.
But I don't think, just to kind of get across to everyone listening, I don't think you have to be super successful.
No.
I think if you can afford the £100 and you're, serious about your music, get it registered and get it registered properly. I think that's a brilliant bit of advice. Down the line, you'll save a lot of money and stress. I think other points other than registration that crop up a lot that we should probably discuss are the kind of royalty agreement. It's different on recording and publishing. But can you tell us a little bit about splits and percentages in musical works from perhaps a publishing perspective, and why that's important, and to know a little bit about that before you sign any deal? Sometimes they're called royalty points in particularly recorded music business. It's just your royalty rate. And in publishing, obviously, you've got your split in terms of how much you wrote the song, but then also there are other splits, because it can be confusing, with your different income types, performance and sync, and other print, maybe if you've done classical music. But can you say why it's important before you sign a deal and what a typical split and percentage rates are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have many members at PRS who, especially early in their career, that don't have a publisher. So they're able to collect 100% of the money direct, nice and simple, or split between the co-writers. If you get to that point where you've attracted the attention of a publisher, or you need some help, if you're a pure songwriter and you need someone to find artists to record your music, that's the kind of traditional role of a publisher, is that they're there to kind of get your music used. And these days, a lot of that is sync opportunities. So getting the music used in visual productions. So essentially, that's a team of people working your music for you. So obviously, for that, they need to cover their costs, and that's where you end up with a publishing agreement. So at PRS, we see some of this and we don't see some of this. So one of our fundamental rules is that a writer can only be paid a minimum of half of the money that's generated through us. So if a song's on the radio, the writer or writers can only receive a minimum of 50%. So they can receive more than that. But it has to be which essentially says a publisher can only get a maximum,
limiting the publishers.
So that means the writer always has a direct income stream from PRS, which is why our writers kind of really value what we do. It's funny, we found on when we're distributing royalties, so we pay out royalties on a fixed schedule, and then a week before that we put the numbers on our website, so you could log in and say, oh, how much am I going to get on July the 15th? And members organically started talking about like hashtag PRS Day on social media, and we were like, we noticed this. Like, we're like,
when you say members, is part of your marketing team?
No. Well, they spotted it, but we didn't start it.
But just the users,
writers use it. Happy PRS Day, which we kind of love.
Payday, right?
It is payday for them, exactly. So it's their direct pay from us. So like the first point of the royalties that are generated by the music being paid is from us to them. So which was lovely. It was great, but it shows to them that we are that kind of constant source of income flow. Now with a publishing deal, obviously, if they've had a publishing deal, then we're paying whatever share that they've negotiated with the publisher to the publisher. So in that most basic example, one writer, we pay the writer 50% direct, and then the publisher share we pay to the publisher. Now, the publisher may have given them advance, to fund the recording of their album or whatever. So the publisher may be recouping against that money. So what we pay them goes against that. Or if they're not in that case, they'll have negotiated a publishing deal, which works out how much the publisher retains, the net publishing share, NPS, and how much the publisher then pays on to the writer as well. So we won't know that. No. We're just paying the publisher. And then
you pay the £100 to the
exactly.
How that's £100 to the publisher in a 50-50 deal.
Exactly.
You do what you want with it, and you pay on the writer.
So, but that agreement is so important.
Yeah.
So we always say to our members, you must always seek independent legal advice. Whenever you're looking at those deals, because not so much these days, but back in the 50s and 60s, these were life of copyright. So that's your entire life. And then 70 years after that, your money is going to be paid this way. So if you sign a bad deal, as it turns out, you're stuck with that. And legally, if you signed it and they've signed it, that's what you've agreed to. So we always say that and part of our member benefits on our website for our members is they can get free legal advice. So obviously, once you get very successful, you probably have.
I didn't know that. Actually.
Yeah, there's accountancy firms too.
Really?
Yeah,
free or
free. They offer essentially pro bono advice, like an hour.
Yeah.
So if you've got something like that's freaking you out, you can get help,
that's handy.
which is really handy. Obviously, as you get more successful, you probably have an arrangement with an accountant,
with
an
lawyer, music accountant.
And the reason you would have that is because they are experts, and you trust them to give you.
As we're learning, it's quite niche.
Exactly. So that's really important. That is, you understand what it is you're signing, because it all flows from that. But then the publisher will be licensing other uses of music that we don't do at PRS. So quite often for sync,
yes,
they do that. And obviously, if you are a writer and you're also recording your music yourself, you're the artist, you probably have the same arrangement with a record label, and then probably an arrangement with a company like PPL who look after artists.
Which is the equivalent of PRS, effectively in the UK, for neighbouring rights.
Yeah, exactly. You write a song and you record the song, and that song's on the radio. There's 2 income streams.
Yeah.
So you get the royalties from us, where we'll pay you as the writer and your publisher for the song, and then the radio station will pay PPL and your label for you as the artist and the recording.
And it'll be a similar flow of royalties.
Exactly.
Direct to the.
So lots of
artist.
income streams to the writer they may not even be aware of they're entitled to.
Yeah.
And then some it's just us. So if you're playing a gig, it's all live. So there's no recorded element, hence no PPL. Whereas there's, I guess, other streams like sync that can not involve PRS at the creation.
Yeah.
But then when that synced music into that audiovisual is broadcast, then there is a performance.
Yes.
Which is why we pay you.
Yeah.
So it's, as we said, it can get complicated. And if you're starting out, if you're grassroots, this is bewildering. Absolutely bewildering.
It's already making a spider web of different royalties.
It really is.
But it is complicated. But so it's a different diversification of income streams to recorded music. Yeah. But getting a publisher to place you syncs, it's all very well and good, but you need to have a good rate on that. They might be taking 99% of that. So
and in the deal there might be different splits for
correct.
different types of usage, right?
Yeah, with
so,
performance
absolutely.
and mechanical and the sync. Yeah, they'll all have different rates. But yeah, it's important to look at that as well. Definitely. And as you say, in the day, I mean, you tend to have these days, don't you, a kind of license deal for a certain period of time, maybe 15 years, let's say, less, or certainly not much longer than that. But in the day, it was for the whole of your life, and 70 years after you die in the UK, you get publishing royalties. You remember the film About a Boy? Yeah. Where we got off of this. I always thought that was because it's 70 years after the death of the last writer.
The last writer. Which is really important.
That's why you really want a young guy in your band.
Well, the example we give is the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because and essentially you said about the band you were talking about. I don't think you were talking about the Beatles, but anyone that knows almost anything about music has heard of Lennon and McCartney. Yeah. And there's this kind of, they chose to credit their music to Lennon and McCartney, whether actually it was just a purely John Lennon song or Paul McCartney song. For the Beatles, it was Lennon and McCartney. And that's what they did. But with John dying in 1980, John goes out of copyright in 2050. So logically, after 2050, any of John's songs that he wrote on his own are out of copyright. Yeah. Anyone can do anything with them. That's why you'll have it as holding music when you're waiting on the phone. Potentially, because it's free. Imagine on every call line. Imagine you've got no money. Call PRS. But everything that's co-credited with Paul McCartney, John Lennon's estate will continue getting paid for 70 years after the death of Paul McCartney. Yeah. And bless him, he's just turned, 83? Still looking healthy. So that's a long time. Yeah, it's a very long time. Yeah. So that copyright protection in the UK is very generous in that respect. Yeah. So a lot of classical music that people know from whatever, school or whatever, a lot of that now is out of copyright. Yeah. But there's some really, really huge classical stuff that is still in copyright. Benjamin Britten is one of our highest earning composers. I can imagine. Dead a long time. Yeah. But that's still generating money every time it's played or performed or whatever. So that sort of stuff, if you get into a deal that lasts for life of copyright. That initial deal you signed, that could be 100 years, 150 years. Even. And I guess what now, like you're saying about the deals and the why it's important people understand what they're signing. Really, these days, those kind of deals have largely gone. Yeah. And really, you should look at the people from the past who went through the difficulty of that have got things into a much fairer place for creators now. So, but it's important. All those sort of business decisions are pretty important. Well, we'll come back to what we were speaking about earlier about registering and when that goes wrong. Yeah. But we've alluded to having a decent team around you, especially if you start getting a bit of traction, as you say. If you created one song and you've gone, okay, I'm registered with PRS, done the equivalent on the recording side, you might not have enough money
just to go, I need a lawyer, I need an accountant, I need a manager. Typically, in my experience, I don't know about you, they would probably get an artist or a writer would get a manager first, then probably a lawyer, and then an accountant when you've actually got money coming through. But let's call that the power team, unless you can think of anyone else who can help these emerging talents come through. Would you give any advice about protecting their income and rights, kind of getting the most out of their royalties and being as successful as they can about that power team and when and why they should do it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously PRS is a large part of that. We've got all sorts of advice on our website. We also have 2 charities, one of which is much more relevant at the start of your career. So the PRS Foundation, they're the biggest funder of new music in the UK, and their kind of strike rate of the people they help is ridiculous. They're by far and away the most successful A&R team. In
Compared
the UK.
to publishers and labels, you get a lot of successful people come through, don't you?
Hugely successful. Like normally in a normal year, the Mercury Prize, normally 80-90% of them at some point have had funding through the foundation. So if you need that, and there's one, and they've got lots of different schemes that you could apply to, it's prsfoundation.com.
Is there any qualification to apply for that? Or
well, there will be, and they'll explain what that is. But it goes from real grassroots right up to, I need help touring America. So we try and cover the spectrum. As PRS, we feel it's part of our obligation to do that, because obviously, we need people to be able to keep making music, and we know it's getting harder and harder. But there's no less drive or passion from each new generation wanting to do that. So
of course not.
So that's great. There's obviously various other charities out there help musicians and all that sort of stuff at the MU. But yeah, so if you're not quite at that stage of going, I'm going to get a publisher that's going to give me a load of money, and the power team isn't quite there yet because I'm not earning that yet, then we can certainly help with that, and the same with PPL. Like I say, there's lots of good guides on the website. Get Paid Guide, the obvious one we would look to, because we've worked with lots of different of the other industry bodies, so to make sure we kind of cover everything, so that people can understand. But yeah, when you get to that point that you do need that support, then you need to look at yourself as a small business. So there is no.
I like that.
Well, you are essentially you are, and part of what comes with that is admin, and it's dull, and we know that, and it takes time. But if you understand it all from doing it yourself, then you're less likely to make those bad decisions down the line because you don't understand the implications. But at PRS, we know that lots of people join us right at that early point when they may only be playing, the open mic circuit. They may only be putting things up on SoundCloud or whatever.
I've got a super successful artist who got a multi-million-pound deal with Sony. Just put a few tunes on SoundCloud. Everyone will know his music out there. It was my alarm to wake up to one of his songs.
I love it. I was
probably creating most of his royalties.
Exactly. Paying your own wages.
but what people do start out like that. And
absolutely. And we do part of my team, we have a team that look after the emerging talent. So people that we know are being tipped. Or they're starting to get that first radio play on a station, or they're with a manager that we know has got quite good success. So we build a relationship with them very early, and sort of so that they understand that where we are, they know they can come to us for help. People like Lewis Capaldi. We were working with Lewis 5 years before his first single came out.
Heard of him.
Yeah, he's tipped.
He's good. He's going to be an X. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Lola Young, we've known for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, if there is that, clearly something is going to happen here. Amy Winehouse, all these people at the Brit School, we've known them when they're in the Brit School.
Yeah.
So they don't understand who we are. They understand we're in their corner. When the time comes, we can signpost them to the foundation, or if they come and say, do you know any firms that we can help? We can say, well, we have to be independent, but here's how you contact them. This is what they do.
And I think it's an important point to make that you're an NPO, you're a non-profit organisation. You're not there to take money. Publishers and record labels have to make money. You have to have enough money to be able to function. But you don't do really a kind of royalty deal just in case.
No, that's a really good point.
And you're a non-profit organisation.
It's an interesting way of describing that. We're not for our profit. So all we take is what it costs to run our business.
Yes.
So to license the music, get the usage reporting in, match that, distribute that out. So while we technically are not for profit ourselves, we're for our members' profit, but we very much run as a profitable commercial organisation.
Yes.
When you consider our figures, like 5 years ago, we were at somewhere around distributing just under £500 million.
Really?
2024, we distributed over £1 billion.
Did you? Wow, that's gone.
So the commercial is insane, right? But our members...
Why is that then? Just loads of new, or you got...
A few reasons. One, this country massively punches above its weight in terms of talent. Our writers are insanely good, and the world loves our music. So that's the main thing.
Yeah.
You know, we collect international income is traditionally always our highest source of income, but it's just been overtaken by streaming. Yeah. Then if you think of streaming, it's immediately giving your music a worldwide audience. That's perfect.
Exactly.
You don't have to be touring somewhere for people to know you, because they can just go on Spotify, YouTube, whatever. So that's great. The other thing is we seek out any opportunity to license music that should be licensed and isn't. So we've just signed the first European PlayStation streaming deal.
Okay.
We've licensed the Middle Eastern airlines. So even though there's no copyright in the Middle East, when those airlines are landing in other countries, yes, there is.
Yeah.
So we, you know, on that commercial side, we've got a really good team.
That's clever.
Yeah, and we keep our deals really short because we know the industry changes, so that we don't we don't unlock ourselves into a licensing deal that we did that for a startup DSP that then becomes, you know,
next Spotify,
TikTok. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it enables us to kind of renegotiate to drive the best
for both sides. That's how business deals work. Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't have to be in the UK to be a PRS member. You know, we've got lots of members who live overseas, who choose to be with us because they see that we're acting in that really commercial way.
Yeah. I think we're known, aren't we, in the UK in the music business to be quite efficient.
Yeah.
I think you set up 1914, something.
Yeah, 111 years ago. Yeah.
So you've been going around a little bit.
Yeah, we're the second. We're older than the BBC. That's the bit that
French
people go.
Was the first.
The French were first. Yeah, they got first. We came second. And then ASCAP in the US.
No comment.
ASCAP in the US copied us, which is great. But because of that, I think we have 150 plus reciprocal agreements with the equivalents of us in other countries. So it doesn't matter if someone in Uganda is playing your song.
Yeah.
That money will ultimately come back to us and come to you. So part of it is we hold ourselves to a very tough kind of
criteria for ourselves, right?
To make sure we're getting that. So whilst, you know, we pride ourselves on being as good as we can at identifying every piece of music, you know, we use technology where it's easier for sort of a company to recognize the music rather than someone at the company sending us what they played, a nightclub, trying to work out what a DJ played in a nightclub. No. So we have a company called DJ Monitor we work with that has it's like a Shazam type technology that sends us a feed.
That's been a real game changer, hasn't it?
Massively.
Because if the BBC Radio 2 is playing a set, you know what that is.
Yeah.
But if you've got a £200 license fee from a Barbers or whatever, how are you going to know what's been played? So that's a question we'll probably come on to a bit later. But So for that reason, technology's helping you recognise. Oh, that was played.
Exactly, which is why it's so important. Getting back to the registry of works, that we know who you are, and if you have a publisher who that publisher has in those other countries, so it's kind of a worldwide network. But again, because our members' music does so well overseas, it's really important that we get that information through, we get that money through. So our international team, which is the biggest of any society, works with the other societies. Say, if you couldn't match some of the data, can we match it?
Yes.
So that unlocks a lot of money. So we're run by our members. Our governance is writer members and publisher members form a member council and a board, and they make big decisions that essentially on behalf of the other members who have elected them. Mm. So we're sort of not for profit. We don't really run the company in terms of the decision making on how we should run the company. We just do the running. Yeah. Which I think keeps us keen. It keeps us very kind of straight down the line. And if members don't like things, then they're welcome to stand for the board and council and have a say. And we've just had our AGM where Kathy Dennis, pretty well-known songwriter. Yep. She's just joined the member council. So she's said, I want to get involved. I want to have a say.
Good for her.
Yeah, she's been a PRS member for decades, and her music's ridiculously popular the whole world over. But she's given up her time to come in and help us
give back a bit.
Yeah,
give some
which is
advice.
brilliant.
Try and
Absolutely brilliant. So for young writers, they're going, okay, I might not know Kathy Dennis, but you certainly know Toxic and Can't Get Out of My Head and I Kissed a Boy. It's like,
you wrote that.
She's the person that is deciding how the people that pay me is run. Great. It's so much better. And
It's relatable, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think for young or emerging, don't have to be young, talent out there.
Yeah.
That's quite important for them to see that.
It's aspirational as well, but it's also kind of like, it's not, the man sat in this big office that I will never be able to interact with.
Yeah.
It's like someone like me who's been through my journey now helping, which I think is great. It puts us, one of my colleagues described us as a morally sound business in a murky industry, which I kind of like that, but that's probably detrimental to other people who are doing a good job. But
I think it's spot on. But no, yeah,
but because that transparency, we have to be.
I think it's changed, hasn't it? Because everyone's probably heard of, whether you're in the industry or not. The labels and the publishers took loads of money in the 90s in the heyday. It's kind of a well touted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of dinner chat. Yeah. But it's completely changed with that transparency, with technology, with artists and writers being able to self-release. Everyone's had to up their game. Streaming has kind of brought that out of it, but so many other things as well. But I like that phrase.
But I mean, you're absolutely spot on. Things that have changed is the delivery of music. So how people get to access the music, how they enjoy it. So they've got complete control. They're not reliant on a DJ playing them songs on the radio. They can essentially be their own radio station.
Yeah.
A huge thing for us is the speed. When I started at PRS, you'd write your song, and maybe at the fastest 3 months later it might be on the radio.
Yeah.
These days you write a song, it could be on Spotify at lunchtime. Which means we start getting reporting 1 month after that.
Yeah.
And we need to know that you've written that song so we can invoice on your behalf to pay you.
Are you going to say registration again, Tony?
Well, but if you miss that invoicing,
but it's true.
It's another year.
Yeah.
Until we can
get on it
re-invoice
and register it if you want money.
Yeah, before you upload it to SoundCloud or Spotify, just pop onto PRS. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Type in the details and off you go.
Others
and then you can forget about
it.
And it's earning money for you forever after.
When you don't register your works, or where you don't know if it's been publicly performed, what the song was, when we gave the example of a salon or something, they pay a general blanket license, and you guys will have to distribute that, or the publishers will. But quite critically, when songs aren't properly registered, to let people know that there's a kind of, I'm sure we'll get into it when we get into the detail, but there's a code that you kind of put to a song in essence.
Yeah.
And then you match that code and you say, okay, this is the song you've registered. This code has popped up on whatever. Yeah. And we'll match it and we'll pay you on it accordingly. So can you say in simple terms what black box is in this whole conversation I've just tried to set up?
So black box is a kind of historical term. That I think means a lot of different things to a lot of different companies. Yes. Yeah. We don't really accept that term in terms of PRS because we can put any money that I guess someone that doesn't understand it might consider to be black box into one of three buckets. So unmatched usage,
which is what I was just referring to, right? If there's no code to match.
Yep. Unidentified usage or unclaimed royalties. Yeah. So essentially something's happened where we've got some money and we don't know who to pay. Yeah. So we class those funds, so unmatched, unidentified, unclaimed, as funds that we can't immediately distribute. Doesn't mean we won't be able to at some point down the line.
How far back can you go? 6-7 years?
It depends on the type of income stream, but essentially the cause is we don't have the kind of buzzword metadata. Yeah. So we don't necessarily know the writer, we don't know the splits, that sort of thing. Because what we want to be able to do is the money comes in, we match it, we pay out at the earliest opportunity. So where we have money that we can't pay out immediately, that's what we describe as unmatched, unidentified, unclaimed. And that can be not necessarily from our members. It's not they haven't registered the track. It might be that the radio station has got the artist name but doesn't know the writer.
Yeah.
It could be that it's been uploaded to Spotify without data, or YouTube, it's user-generated content. You know, how many YouTube videos say the name of the writer in the video, in the URL? No. So with each of those different areas, we do a lot of work to try and do that matching, identifying. So what we class as, and it could also be things like we know who's to pay, but the member hasn't updated their bank details. So we've got the money and it's ready for the writer, but their bank details are out of date, so we know it's not going to get to them. So there's reasons why money doesn't go out the door when it should do, which I think is what people maybe don't think of black box. So it's a challenge across the whole music industry. We know that. Things are fast. Data isn't always perfect. So that's not unique to PRS by any stretch. And all collective rights societies around the world have this problem. So we're aware of this, and we work very diligently to drive forward clean and complete data, be that registering the works, be that your membership data. So, your address, your bank details, all that kind of stuff. And trying to make it as accessible and easy for the members to do that themselves. So, on our website, our members log in, they change their bank details themselves. So they should be able to do that. You think, I've changed bank, I need to update PRS.
Yeah.
It should be that simple. But on a much broader scale, we do big projects. One called Nexus that we've done, which is
Glad you brought up Project Nexus.
Yeah, it's a kind of multi-society effort to go, let's clean up the copyright data that's held all around the world, because there's so much duplication. But if the American societies don't have our members' information on their registration, they won't know to send us the money from America.
No, exactly.
So us all working together, let's all agree that we have like a single source of the truth, and that will open the floodgates so that it isn't unmatched, it's not unidentified, and it's not unpayable. We talked about that nightclub example and the coffee shop tape example. We can use tech. There's so much tech available now that wasn't 10, 15 years ago. So that enables us to get much more granular. So again, stuff where it's like, well, we don't know what was played because it's in a hairdresser's. We now are working with a company that can provide the data that will tell us actually what was played in that hairdresser. Yeah. So we, those kind of things that historically cause problems, we're fixing. And then a lot of that is education. So we do a lot of education to exactly like I was saying right at the start, to members say, this is what you have to do. This is your admin that will ultimately help yourself. So
I think probably a lot of people just want to focus on their music, don't really know about it.
Absolutely.
That's why we're doing this. Do you know what I mean? We're
and
trying
that
to
kind
help
of creative
people.
brain and
they're completely different to us boring old fogies. But me.
most of my team are PRS members, so they also can think like that.
Well, most of my team are found musicians, including this is everyone in the industry who's a professional. Exactly. Have a love for music, let's say.
So all
they
of
don't
those,
think numerically or analytically.
So all those things that we do kind of drives down the amount that either we know we can't pay out because we can't actually pay the member. That's easy. We can contact the members and deal with that. The bit where it's kind of like, we just can't match this because you haven't registered the song. We generally don't know that song exists until someone's gone, I've used that song. So on our website, we make available to the members the data we can't match. So they can log in and say, right, let me search your unmatched file for my song titles. Yeah. Or if my actual name is spelt differently to, what's on the record label, the label copy, or on the, whatever you see on Spotify or whatever, they can log in and match it for us. Yeah. And we obviously do some checks on that.
I'm going to match Last Christmas. I've done that.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But we trust them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we trust when they're telling us I've written this song in the first place, until we have any reason to not trust that, in which case we'll then intervene. But they're also saying, like, that's clearly my song. I hadn't registered it. I have now. Here's the code. And we go, okay, great. That gets the money out. Yeah. And then if we end up with a kind of, and we have, most of that is for 3 years. So members have 3 years to look. So I always say to people, just put a note in your calendar. Once every 3 months, go in and just do a quick check. Yeah. I mean, or get your manager or your accountant to do that.
Yeah, you're at that stage. It's exactly.
So we're always holding some money, and in the scheme of things, it might look, it's a few million, but in the scheme of £1 billion each year, that's not that much. Yeah. But it's for valid reasons, and we can identify like that's being held because you've got a counterclaim on the song. Mm. When Shape of You was being conflicted with that those guys that said it infringed it, we couldn't pay the money out until the court case was resolved. So we're holding the money, and if to the uninitiated might go, oh, that's black box. It's like, no, that's all due to whoever ends up being the eventual owners of Shape of You, and then as soon as that's resolved,
It's paid out.
I get an email from a lawyer and everyone agrees it's all right, now pay the money out.
I think it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Project Nexus.
Yeah.
Register my music. I know you make it really simple.
Yeah.
To get this universal
The one.
education to help everyone register their music.
Yeah.
Conversations like this will tell, just register your music from the very beginning, get the percentage splits, and then you don't really have to think about it.
Exactly.
It's called Tony. And then let's get a universal matching system with all of the software we've got and AI and the digital advancements we've had from when we both started out. I started out with paper royalty statements.
I had paper registration forms in triplicate. We had the pink version.
Imagine how much work I could do with statements like that. Now I've got it at the point of a button, but it's really, really developing. But I still see problems when I go in and do royalty audits. For instance, at a publisher, look, you're not going to be able to match everything. There is going to be some stuff where a publisher will go, I don't know who to pay this to. And they've essentially got their systems in place, but they need someone to come in on behalf of a writer or a composer and say, look, sometimes if we go into a suspense account meeting, which is awkward, a little story. There was I can't say because it will give away the artist name, but there was a naughty word in a song title. We've got some rock bands. We had some like weird,
some fruity lyrics.
Some fruity lyrics. Thanks. And there was a fruity lyric, and then 3 versions of that song. So it said fruity lyric 1, then it was part 2, and I have to say I need to check for this song. I need to check and I have to say it 5 times to the poshest guy ever. And I swear he was putting me through the mill on purpose. But that was awkward. But we check for sometimes you might have an exclamation mark, or a little X next to,
or if there's a number in the title,
or there's a number
sort of
in the title. Exactly. And so look, they've got, same as you, systems and software in place that's not perfect. Same as human error. And you just have to go in and check for that. We check for black box income, but unmatched income, however you want to call it, that's going to happen. But it's from someone who does royalty audits, and that's one of, I don't know, 40 tests that I do in a royalty audit. I'd love for that. I'd love for that to be improved for artists and writers. And I think it's going that way. So I do honestly credit you guys for kind of initiating that amongst others in the industry. Yeah,
we always think collaboration is going to get everybody the best result.
It's the only way if everyone's on board.
Exactly. And back in the early 2000s, there was an attempt to have one global copyright database, the Global Repertoire Database, GRD, which had such brilliant intentions and then fell apart because of politics and money and whatever. So we've we have ICE, which some people may have heard of, which is the International Copyright Enterprise. ICE, nothing to do with Donald Trump. And that is 8 societies now all using one copyright database. So just by using that's it's set up between us, the Swedes and the Germans.
Bloody efficient then.
Terribly efficient. And then that brought on the Norwegians and the Icelandics and stuff like that. So it's a group of societies all using the same database, which is brilliant because it saves the publishers that duplication of effort and cost, obviously, ultimately, of having to do the same thing all over again. So that means you've got a chunk of repertoire that everyone that's involved in agrees is accurate.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that the end game?
Well, that's the end game.
Everyone
right?
on that?
So what we've done since we've had that, and because ICE has developed into having a kind of online licensing function and kind of back office matching function. Once you've got, like I said, the copyright right, so many other things can just flow because of that. So the next obvious thing is to go, right, so we're dealing with data because everything's codes and it's much easier using a code than a name because of spellings and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got a code for the song, the work, International Standard Work Code, ISWC.
I'm glad you just said ISWC.
Which, logically think about it, the song's written once, there should be one code. You'd be amazed how we found there was multiple codes for the same song. Where it's trickier on the recording side is every recording has its own ISRC, International Standard Recording Code. But if you can link the work code to all of the recording codes, it doesn't matter how many people have covered Dancing Queen.
Why would you just...
Or Last Christmas.
But why would you have multiple ISRCs to one ISWC?
Because you can have, covers, remixes, radio edits,
samples,
stems,
jingles,
samples, all sorts.
So the original writer...
you've got one song written, but numerous artists or versions. If you can link those...
Because that can be a problem, can't it? But if you could link...
It can absolutely be a problem. Hugely problem.
Is a problem, yeah. But
Our world is probably simpler because it's like one song. Poor PPL and the record labels, they've got multiple versions.
Yeah.
If you have a database that links those, then it doesn't matter whether it gets reported as the song, gets reported as the artist and recording. That's already connected. So Nexus was going, let's work together as multiple societies. So the American equivalents of PRS, the French, the Australians going, let's work together and show what we've got. Let's harvest everything we have. And that will then show us the duplicates that we need to iron out. Did that pretty quickly, pretty simple. But it gives us all this additional data that can sit in now we're in this digital world, it can sit in a massive database. And we spent a load of money putting all ours into the cloud because you just can't have that much data on a server. So it doesn't matter how any of that music gets reported to us from any of those countries. It should match just on the codes. And of course, you can have machine learning does all that for you. You don't need people doing it. So the people we have, we didn't get rid of anyone. We can refocus those people for the bits where we are missing some of that information. They can then actively research it. But in order to go, it doesn't matter which version of Dancing Queen was performed or was, played or streamed, whatever. We all know all of those different versions have a code that all link back to PRS member Björn's original song.
Sounds quite simple.
Why did we think of it before? Politics and money. So we don't have a worldwide version of that yet. Ideally, that's
haven't we been saying this for like 10 years? You mentioned the original.
Yeah,
but we are in a better position.
RC always talks about one rail, which is kind of, I always think like air traffic controlling. Like the system works, and our system for a long time hasn't really worked. It's worked on multiple versions of the same thing.
Yeah.
And multiple versions tend to lead to inaccuracies creeping in.
Yeah.
So we think because our money does so well overseas, our music, does so well overseas, it's worth us investing some time and effort and leading some of these things that helps everyone else.
Yeah, I agree.
It's one of those kind of like all the boats rise if you improve it.
And we were mentioning one of the reasons why, you've doubled your
income.
Your income, because you're riding the wave of the streaming growth, which we'll come on to. But as you say, all the boats rise at once. So I think it's beneficial for all. And honestly, I am really excited. We have spoke about this. If we're being completely honest, certain things we're gonna change in the industry. This being one before, but it seems like we're on a different tide. It seems like we're a different zeitgeist in society. Everyone wants to be fair and kind, and I hope that transparent. And I think we will get there.
I think so.
So kudos to you. But going back to streaming then, before we bored everyone about unmatching income and where to do your music, but they are important. Streaming is obviously a hot topic, has been for a while, but when do you think, because I looked this up just to check, when do you think Spotify set up roughly? No.
When was it set up?
Yeah.
2007.
So it was like kind of 2011, but it really hasn't got going since 2013.
Yeah.
In operation.
Yeah.
So it's only streaming really. It's only been around 10 years. I mean, a little bit, but not much.
Well, when I started working in royalties, it was two things that were keeping the industry going. Really, were ringtones, polyphonic ringtones. Which to a kid these days,
they won't know what it is.
You paid to have a piece of music that rang when your phone rang.
It was cool when you had that, wasn't it?
You didn't have your phone on silent. So that made a fortune.
Yeah.
And the other one was a thing called cover mount. So when you used to get a CD stuck on the front of your magazine or your newspaper, they were pressing 3 million copies on the Mail of Sunday. It's insane.
You'd have a subscription, wouldn't you?
To go from that to streaming in a matter of a number of years is kind of crazy. And respect to, I know Spotify has its detractors, but credit to them. Their business model is they wouldn't launch the service until they were licensed.
Yes.
Now that hasn't been the case for lots of other DSPs.
Yeah.
But we've come a long way since then. So again,
definitely.
They kind of very much paved the way. But you still have vast numbers of people on Spotify ad supported.
Yeah.
Or Spotify free.
Yeah.
And to us, the concept of free music is a tricky one.
Well, I remember on that, Tony. Actually, I remember one of my friends didn't think that paid streaming would work because you could. Yeah. In the day, you could convert MP3 files for free. That's why it's one of my friends who did this, definitely. Yeah. But I didn't see it going anywhere. I was like, you could do this for free.
Well, it only works if they've got all the music you want to hear.
Yeah, that's true.
When others started up and they only had certain deals with certain record labels, like if you can't hear, you hear the 5 tracks you want to hear, but the 6th one isn't there, you're like, well, that's not great, is it? I'll go put my CD back on.
Yeah.
Whereas I think where we've got to now is that pretty much, because the fractional licensing of the market has matured now, pretty much every new service that starts up will get a license with everyone they need, so they can offer all the music. So then it becomes about the user's choice of, do I like Spotify's, app? Do I prefer Apple Music? Did I have iTunes?
The annual wrap. I'm not with Spotify, but I like underground garage music.
Okay.
So most of the music, there are some other platforms. For everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think to youngsters these days, it's probably...
It's all there, really.
But the whole concept of the world's music, the history of recorded music being available
so good
immediately is great, but it's overwhelming.
In terms of
like, what do I listen to?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. So I guess previously you had radio where you got DJs saying, like tastemakers going, this is what you're going to listen to because I think it's great. Spotify has the playlists, which it's as much a discovery thing as you want. But you look at our album chart and they're just greatest hits albums. So it's people going, I
want to go back.
Yeah. It's saying their speaker play Mr. Brightside.
Do you ever get I mentioned the rap at the end of the year. What your most popular tune is? Is that always embarrassing? You're like, bloody hell, did I listen to that?
You know my taste in music, so it's always embarrassing.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
But it's not there. They're our members, so it's not at all. No, I like commercial pop music. So no, it's funny. So there's an artist called Baby Queen who I absolutely adore. I think she's brilliant. And I came out in like the top 0.01% of the listeners.
Proud of that, didn't you?
And it was like, God, if I listened to that song that much.
Yeah.
Whereas like back in the day, you buy a CD and whack it on, you don't count how many times you've listened to those songs. But I tend to use Spotify for discovering stuff.
Yes.
Rather than choosing to what I want to listen to just regularly. But I think you find most people that work in such a music industry job like ours, they're quite nerdy with their music. Like you say, you put a genre in yours straight away.
You're kind of against the curve by actually liking pop.
Probably,
But you don't care about looking cool.
No, evidently. But I think that's exciting because for youngsters, like, if I need to find out who inspired...
Who were the Beatles when you mentioned that?
Well, you go, I really like Inhaler, and you find out, the lead singer's dad is Bono. You can go and listen to U2. At any point in U2's career. Like, if you want to go, well, who's this Pink Floyd band or Led Zeppelin? it's right there. Back in the day, I'd have to go either buy it.
Yeah, but wasn't that more fun?
No, I don't know. It's the library. But then you get the concept to youngsters that music's free because it's all available and you don't pay for it. Which for us, it's like, well, no, it's not. It's really not. So again, that's a licensing world we get into of valuing the music and trying to, forever improve and increase the value of the music that we're licensing on behalf of the members.
That's crucial. That's crucial, isn't it? I think I do a lot of catalogue valuations, and when I map forward what we believe historic income has performed like, and we map it forward, what do we think it's going to achieve? We have to look at the market as well as obviously the catalogue itself. If we was mentioning copyrights, if the copyright's running out next year, I'm going to need to plan that and calculate that into the calculations. But I think when I look forward, the industry has been growing exponentially for a good number of years. We mentioned when streaming come around, but I feel like it's reaching its peak with developed markets, English-speaking countries, US, Germany, England. But it's really prominent, the growth of streaming on an industry level in emerging markets, particularly South America.
Well, look at India,
Asia, Africa.
They've got
it's exploding.
Yeah, I mean,
so there's still
all you need to have is a phone,
potential.
Right? Again, you don't need to have a CD player or a hi-fi. You just need a phone.
Yeah. Do you know their subscription's a lot less than ours?
Yeah.
So mine's like $9.99 a month for a family plan.
Yeah.
Paid my mum and my brother. They never appreciated that gift. That's like a lifetime of monthly
Given
expense
them
for
everything
me. But they
ever
didn't
recorded.
understand streaming. They went, "Oh, cheers, thanks." But but it's
Alexa, play Mr. Brightside.
And they just don't realise someone's paying, like you say. So I'm paying to.
But it's interesting because we had that model with, like, going back to those cover mounts. People go, I bought my mail.
Did you like cover mounts, Tony?
Well,
you did, didn't you?
I always chuckle because I work in my job. I go, why do I know the first 10 songs and there's 5 songs I've never heard of? But I know what it was. But again, with that, where we had magazines saying we want to put a CD on the cover of our magazine as a free giveaway, we're like, well, no, it's not free. The people that have written that music are entitled to be paid that you're giving away.
Yeah.
So to the consumer, they got a free CD, happy days. The company putting out the magazine or the newspaper, they paid a very high rate to do that.
Yeah.
Which shows the value of music. It drives them selling their magazine and the newspaper. So like kind of thing. But we were like, no, our members are not going to suffer because you want to give it away for free.
Yeah.
So on the streaming side, that's obviously matured into streaming where you've got the paid subscription model, which obviously clearly people are paying and therefore there's a royalty. But the free, that has to, has to be paid for as well.
Premium.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy for me to.
But in terms of that, there's members, writers, composers, publishers are still being paid for the free tier.
Oh gosh.
But I think a lot of youngsters don't realise that and go, it's music's free, it's everywhere. It's just So that's a real challenge. Yeah. And obviously, can you have any conversation without mentioning AI? That's a real challenge for us.
Another, I mean, I think the only kind of worry at the moment in the industry, particularly in your world with streaming, and something I feel quite passionate about. I like to. A job satisfaction for me is that I represent a songwriter or an artist and try to get them as much money as possible. A lot of the time, you become friends with them, or even if you're just corresponding all the time for a decade, they tend to. It's just normal people, aren't they? And I like trying to maximise their money as much as possible.
It's a responsibility, right? It's our job.
Yeah, but it's quite a good job satisfaction thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think on the publishing side, just to give a real general overview from a stream, everyone speaks about how much money do you get from a stream. I've got 1 million streams and I've only got so and so. I'm not a millionaire. Or you hear all these other stories. The Taylor Swift. People don't really know the intrinsics of a stream. So in essence, if you get a pound from, let's say, Spotify, we're speaking about Spotify, they tend to keep about 33% of that, a third of it. And then the other 66% will be split to be paid out in royalties. But that, let's say 66%, about 50%, a little bit more than that, goes to the label. 51, 52% goes to the label. And it's only about 15%, do the maths, of the 66 that gets paid to the publishers. Then to the CMOs, PROs, and to the writers, and to the publishers, and then to the writers. But I've never really this is from a personal perspective, not a professional, but I always think the songwriter is the real talent rather than the sexy singer. So I just don't know why only 15%. I mean, there are obvious reasons, but I don't know why. I don't think it's fair that only 15% goes to the publishing side. I'm not asking for an answer. I'm saying how that works. But I just think songwriters and composers need to earn more from streaming income, particularly because it represents about 70% on the recorded side and 40% on the publishing side. That's probably because they get so little money. That would be more if they got a better royalty rate. I think we need to increase the rates and what they get paid on streaming. The problem is it's the kind of independent publishers. It benefits them because they might only have the songwriter and not the recording side. But if you're a major, Sony, Universal, or Warner, you probably represent both. It doesn't really matter about where that 66% pot goes on the recording and publishing side. So there's no real kind of desire to split it fairly. But I do think stuff's happening in the industry at the moment. People are shouting a bit, and I think it does need to be a bit more fair on the publishing side. We
went through the whole DCMS committee process on this. Work very closely with UK Music.
Was you involved in that?
Not personally, but people above me. Our CEO was very involved.
Is that one?
No, there's two above me. We're very active in all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, representing our members. We do a lot of work with the government in every kind of aspect of really working on behalf.
I did a bit of consultancy work.
Exactly. So you're absolutely right. Without the song, you don't have any of those recordings. So for the label part to be bigger than the publishing part feels unfair. And streaming is generating a lot of income. And an example I give is, again, we're back to how people consume music now. That if your song was played on Radio 2, you've got 10 million people hearing that song. You might get, if it's a 3-minute song, you pull in that with about £100.
Yeah.
If 10 million people choose to stream your song on Spotify Premium, you're going to get an awful lot more money. But those 10 million people have to choose to stream your song. So that dynamic has changed very much from your being given music as in choosing music. Which with streaming now becoming the biggest generator of income, that has a real impact on the people who are earning the money. There's more money, but the people earning it has changed.
Yes.
So again, we've recently dropped the admin rate. So what we're charging essentially our members to do the work of collecting that data and matching it and distributing it. by 20% because it's the area of licensing that most of our members earn some money from. So we took a 20% cut on that.
Does it take less work for you to do, or was...
Well, it's a combination of it's matured, and so the data is better. Also, that the society is working together, so that we're doing something once that takes out that extra cost. So a kind of economies of scale type thing. We've been able to go, look, we can actually drop the rate by 20%. So everybody wins. You know, we're not losing because we don't keep it for ourselves.
No,
it just means more money goes out the door. And I'm trying to remember the figure we said that by 2030, we'll have something like £30 million more gone out the door that wouldn't have done. So it's
on current numbers,
significant,
let alone the growth.
Yeah. So if you're an emerging artist and really you're making your money from streaming,
which is probably the case, right?
A 20% reduction in what's deducted is significant.
Yeah,
right?
massive.
And we're trying to encourage our sister societies around the world to do the same, but they don't necessarily have that economy of scale process.
Why is it not brother societies?
Probably because...
You weren't expecting
that,
that,
you know what? I wasn't, no. I thought, probably because the French were the first, and they'd like to gender things.
Yes.
So la musique is French, so probably...
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm going to get corrected now by the time middle.
Edit that out.
But we always say sister society. I don't know why.
It's true, though.
But do you know what I mean? It's all computer driven.
Yeah, exactly. It's all digital anyway,
should be the
right?
easiest thing to get the friction out of that royalty flow.
Yeah.
Which again, we're trying to encourage using our own expertise and maturity of working in this market now for a good number of years to go, look, for a new DSP setting up, it's like, here's the licensing terms. It's straightforward. This is what you need to do. This is how everyone's doing it. You know, you're starting as a brand new company, use current tech.
Yeah.
You know, it should be straightforward. We're moving to monthly distributions of streaming income. So
really
for the big services. So we did a test in March and paid out £25 million early. That went really well.
That went really well.
Yeah,
we've got
really
a
well.
lot of your clients are ours, and we've got mutual clients. Went pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah.
For such a big shift, but that's the way it needs to go.
But essentially, again, because things are sped up so much, like we're processing data the month after it's been streamed. If that's processed and ready to pay, why should we hold on to it? Why pay? And some members don't want that. You know, some big publishers are going, well, it's a lot of admin. We're quite happy with how it was, and we can deal with that. But yeah, so from August, we're going to be paying out where we have money we can pay out. It's going to go out, and I think it starts to look like a salary for members. They're getting paid every month, which can help with things like mortgages and things you know better than I do because of your job. But the
hashtag payday PRS payday will be every month.
Yeah, it'll be every
it is like a salary.
But no, just things like that can help. We know cash flow can be a real problem for writers, for creatives.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly if they're not the performer as well, because they're not got that other stream of income coming in. So
it's not just young musicians.
No, not at all.
I've got kind of older guys and girls that had really decent royalties in their heyday, but that song's not always going to be on the radio. It's not always going to be streamed. And we typically see, obviously, you get a kind of boost in the first 6 to 18 months, let's say, of a song being released. It's different for different income types.
Yeah.
For instance, radio, you're probably on the main channels for a little bit, and then the next things come along. And streaming, it's a little bit longer, but then it does decline and decay.
Yeah. But it can be discovered
thereafter. But it can be discovered.
Yeah. And if TikTok suddenly throwing up things from a few years back that suddenly have a bigger life.
Yeah. Or you get what was the Kate Bush song with?
Running Up That Hill.
Just suddenly again.
She was thrilled. I sent her a letter and a bottle of champagne.
Personally around her house.
No, I know.
Hi, Kate.
But just say you finally got up the hill.
Yeah.
Which she loved. But it's not even just we're talking about we're talking about streaming and stuff like that. But even things like audiovisual, a lot of our highest earning and most important members are film and TV composers.
Yeah.
Because they have to create so much music.
Yeah.
And without any of that ego of it being, can you make it 5 seconds shorter and you can take the pickle out? I don't know how they do it. They're incredible.
I hate taking the pickle out.
Oh, that's the worst. But for them, a lot of the times they're creating music for a production that is going to be shown once on the telly, and that's it. It never gets repeated.
Yes.
Maybe they repeat. Maybe it gets sold to another country.
Unless you get a Harry Potter or something.
Well, now, even if it's not that, if it's a Netflix show, one, it's available to the whole world immediately, so there's income coming from everywhere. But even if it was something from like the 80s, I'm sure he won't mind me telling this example. The guy that wrote the music for the Crystal Maze, that was the 80s.
Yeah.
That's had like renewed versions Then there's the kind of interactive
which I went to.
place you can go to,
Have you ever done that?
which is licensed.
Yeah.
I haven't done it. I'd love to do it. I haven't. So even if you had music that you think, actually, do you know what? It's had its time. It's moved on.
You can have a resurgence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now you've got so many TV channels because you've got all the digital ones and all the Sky ones. There's such demand for music to fill all the airtime. So a lot of that stuff is being repeated. And they just started showing El Dorado again.
Most people don't know what that is.
Well, so the guy that wrote the music for El Dorado wrote the music for EastEnders.
Oh, did he?
So he's had something on primetime BBC for 40
That's
years.
a good one to have EastEnders.
Yeah, but he also
must,
had it on.
must be raking it in.
It's a little period for Channel 5 and then it kind of didn't. But it's now back on again. So, the tech can revitalise things. So where people may have been earning it and it's dropped, they might actually see it come back up again, which is obviously great, the fact that when you join us for life.
Yes.
We start working for you again because it's generating again. So
it's really interesting, and the industry certainly changed. And we're not even, let's be honest, we're not even that old. People have been in the industry longer than us and see it change much more than we have. And it probably will change in the next 10 years, 20 years that we don't even know. I mean, one of those things is probably going to be AI. I read the other day, I think it was a report from Deezer, that roughly 100,000 songs get uploaded to streaming platforms every day, and about 10% of those are from AI. Imagine what that's going to be even in a year. Listen, I think that's a whole other topic.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to have enough time. It's pretty hot in here anyway, so I need to. I think we'll speak about that another time. That's certainly a hot topic. Like streaming royalties and the split of all of it and whatever. I think valuations is probably quite a hot topic as well, with Hypnosis entering the market, and then they
caused me so much
shredded it. Gave me a lot of work.
Yeah.
It changed the kind of ecosystem, and pushed up multiples, and we'll get into it a little bit. We don't have to go into it too much, but I do think people are speaking about it because in the day, and when I say that, I think they peaked about 2018. So I think old rock stars typically, or guys who were trying to get a pension fund, were typically going, oh, right, I can sell my assets and there might be tax benefits to that, and I can get the money now or help my kids, my grandkids, whatever. But I think when it become more of a norm and more into the market, more into the mainstream, and when these firms come in, these banks, these big kind of banks that have these mathematicians work with them, realise that it's a really good rate of return if banks were to invest in music copyrights, getting the royalties. So essentially they'd buy it off of the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones get 100 million, and then the company or the person who buys the music catalogue will receive that right to those royalties. So it's just like another asset, and that's how banks can lend on those assets, because it's like an asset, just like a house is, and you get a mortgage on it. And that's called ABS, asset-based securities. So all of those reasons, you've got a lot more people offering big money because it's a viable alternative to other financials. It's become more popular and people are more aware of it. So it's not just the kind of older generation selling it. There's lots of young guys and girls that I've valued their catalogue and helped them sell it, or kind of raised money for them, because it might be a cheaper alternative than giving your rights away to a publisher if you're established or whatever, or going to, get a mortgage and you could get it that way. But what's your view of valuations? In my world, I'm helping people buy and sell, raising finance, leveraged off the assets, as I mentioned, or divorce. That happened a lot in COVID. If people are getting divorced, what we split in, £100 million. It was a boom, which is quite sad, really. But they're the main reasons I would value a catalogue. But do you see it coming to your world? You said it's a bit of a bane of your life.
Well, it entered our world, quite significantly, to the point that I have one of my team, pretty much this is all he does now.
Really?
That's how much it is. We're here to give effect to what our members want us to do. So it's not for us to have any kind of opinion on it.
Okay, well, what does the guy in your team, what does he do?
So we'll have it presented to us by the writer saying, I want to do. Well, what normally happens is we get a really innocuous email going, could you just send me 5 years of statements? Thinking that no one else has asked that. I was like, are you doing a deal? No. So 6 months
You haven't
later,
asked
6
in
weeks
40
later.
years.
Yeah. No, so they come to say, look, I've done a deal. I want to sell my, it used to be I'm selling my catalogue.
Yeah.
Can you pay this person, not this person? Not me.
Yes.
We've had, since then, we had every possible size and shape of deal. I'm selling 65% of these songs to this person and 12% of the songs to this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work on our side, but we can
see it
we
from
can
your
make it
perspective
work.
now, yeah.
And ironically, we use the divorce process we used to use to make it work, so that was handy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen it from estates.
Yes.
So clearly the writer is not writing any more songs because they're dead. So it's a very simple everything or whatever. That's not going to change. That couldn't be more straightforward. Through to really, like you say, really young writer producers who've gone, I'm going to sell my first 10 years.
Exactly. Not
tax
everything.
benefit. I want to build a studio. And kind of like, well, in my head, I've written those songs. I've made the money. I've sold it. I'll move on. I'm going to write another 100 hits.
I think that's because they're more business savvy and they're more, you said, act like a small business. Like, I think the younger generation are better.
Yeah, I mean, they've still got that emotional attachment to it, and they'll always be the person that wrote the song.
Because you can't change that, can you?
Exactly, but some people want the money now, and for good reasons, for putting the kids through college or paying a tax bill or
I think building a recording studio is better.
It's pretty common, yeah. That's it. So that's, but then you know, and some of it, like you say, if people are in the older generation, it can be the certainty of that financial planning. You know, what they're stopping is their descendant, their heirs earning, like we said, 70 years after death.
Yeah.
But what they're saying is instead of you getting that and whatever that turns into, like you say, if the earnings drop off, what they're saying is I can give you certainty of this sum that I've got now that it's up to you to do what with it, do it with what you want. You know what I mean? And a lot of that is I'm going to get this money from the sale and buy property or other investments that they think are going to be a more straightforward or safer bets, and I guess
less
that's
management,
and that's what companies like you will help with.
I mean, also on the recording side, just very quickly, it's just to make it clear, it's 70 years after release in the UK,
right?
So you might not have that length of copyright if you wrote the music. 70 years, and you wrote it 50 years ago. You know, there's only 20 years coming. So it's a gamble. Public domain.
It's a gamble ultimately. It's like it's a certainty of what you can have now versus what the possibilities of what you might get.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you say, we sort of felt like everyone that was going to sell has sold by now, but no, they're still coming in.
Do you know what I think?
Thick and fast.
I thought that as well, because I saw I have to apply multiples with my market method.
Yeah.
We look at all the maths on the
multiple being
the side. Sorry, a multiple being you earn £100,000 a year.
So 10
times that would be, what would that be?
More than that. I don't deal with people's money.
As I do the numbers. Yeah, no. I think it was because it was all the big ticket, the Bob Dylans and all these names we know about, big names, and also
there's a lot that people don't know about.
Yeah, or that's not been
which is entirely
published.
seller's choice, right?
Exactly. But I think it's becoming more into the mainstream with, if they could say, I said £100,000 a year, say someone buying that or financing against that, got 100 of those guys that make up 100 grand. So they own £1,000 each. Yeah. But there's 100 of them. It's still the same for them. Yeah. And it's more varied. So it could be less risky. There are obviously other
spread betting, right?
things like that. Yeah. But I think it's not just the big ticket items now. It's just the kind of everyday musician. And you don't have to be a millionaire.
Absolutely. I mean, we won't and some of the companies won't entertain a value below a certain level.
Yeah.
Which I think is sensible. We won't entertain it below a certain level because it costs us time and effort to do this.
Yeah.
Which essentially is other members' money. So, we're sensible with it, but a lot of the deals aren't for the life of copyright. Some of them it's a 10-year deal and then you get it back. So I think there's options out there for anyone thinking of selling, and they should absolutely get advice from people like you and get help on what are my options here. What I don't have to do it. I can do it. I can ask to negotiate. It doesn't have to be my whole catalogue. It can be certain songs.
Exactly.
So like I said, when I say we've seen every flavour, it's moved from everything to what I'm comfortable doing. And essentially, like you say, it's an asset class, and people buying that want to make money from it. Mm. So a lot of companies like Hypnosis, like I work very closely with the Hypnosis team, who've rebranded, but they were very keen on working the catalogue, i.e. getting more syncs for it, or
buying the
getting it
and
covered.
Then exploiting it and earning more from it.
So ultimately, the writer, if the writer hasn't sold their whole catalogue, they're going to benefit.
Might be on the same album.
Well, exactly. Additional exposure.
It might make other people go, what's this other guy?
Exactly.
Music?
So I think, those companies that are actually working the catalogue and doing something with it that's really positive because they're going, we see the value in the asset. That's why we've invested. Let's grow it because that helps everyone. You've got some companies that are going, I'm just going to buy it because it's a steady, reliable income stream that it just...
Evergreen hits. It's always going to earn this.
Yeah.
I like it when they exploit it again because you might re-release music with better sound quality, or sometimes release music onto digital platforms that haven't ever
wasn't
been on
ever
there,
available. Exactly.
Which we've alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a kid, and she would go, "Oh, Dad, I've just learnt about the Arctic Monkeys."
Oh, I'll tell you. Have you heard of the Arctic Monkeys?
Heard of the Arctic Monkeys? Yes. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some music isn't on the streaming platform. The Arctic Monkeys are. But, you know, there are some definite benefits of that. And, yeah, it's interesting to see from your point of view because your team probably hate having to go, instead of paying it to him, let's pay it to these 10 guys.
It's
a big job for you guys.
There's a process to make this all work, to divert the money, which, we have. It works fine, but it is a process. And, it can get quite emotional with some of the writers.
I think if you've written a song...
It's their babies, isn't it?
And imagine you wrote it about a man, a love interest, or your kid. I think it's quite hard to let go of.
A lot of them do see their music as their babies, and I totally get that.
Yeah, if I was talented, I would as well.
Yeah.
But some songs, they probably make them more money. I think I love country music as well, not just underground garage. And I think Dolly Parton, who wrote I Will Always Love You, and Jolene in the same day.
Same day, right? What a day. Send me one of those days, someone, please.
She loves the fact, I think someone asked her, like, do you hate it that, Jolene was the girl who stole her fella, I suppose, I don't know, but do you hate that because you have to keep saying it? She said, no, she's like me, shitloads of money, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
did you like the Whitney Houston cover? Yes.
Yeah,
yes, I did.
Well, actually, yeah. All right, that's really interesting, mate. Look, I've got a couple of questions down here about the young generation being more business savvy. I think they are, but I'm going to scrap those considering I've got you here and the amount of lunches over the last decade or whatever we've had, and drinks and events and music award ceremonies. You always tell a good story. And obviously we can't name drop on here.
No. Okay.
But if you can just think of just a really fun story after all that number chat.
Oh gosh.
Just to try and, off the top of your head, a little story about, I don't know, someone you've met or someone you can't mention got drunk, or you saw was in a recording studio and saw someone, I don't know, something like that.
We were approached by Björn from ABBA saying he was thinking of switching the society he was at, and he was looking at a bunch of societies, and he came to see us at PRS. And his thing, Björn as a businessman is in just as good as a musician.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. He's got 3 things running in London at all times right now. He's got Voyage, he's got Mamma Mia.
That's true.
And Mamma Mia, the party. Like the guy is a genius at business.
Yeah.
And he came in and he was really interested in, this is obviously before he became president of CSAC. So he was really interested in future thinking, forward thinking, kind of data and that sort of thing.
How old is he roughly?
He's just turned 80.
That's exceptional.
So this was 2014.
All that.
So he was 70 at that point.
Yeah.
And he came in, and the reason he was interested in PRS is because we were doing some of these projects. Kind of, at that point, it was ICE was working, and it was kind of post GRD. And he wanted to know what else we were thinking of, because he was like, I assume you're going to do a very good job with my catalogue if I was to join. That's your job, and I assume that my catalogue does very well. But I'm interested in data and how you're going to improve things. So we went through a bunch of things, and he was really into that. And he said, "And do you like ABBA?"
Oh God!
And I said to him, "I said, if my mum, so growing up for me, like the classic family with the kind of the stacked stereo, a bunch of LPs and the little glass cabinet underneath. One of those was Super Trooper. My mum was. I said to him, I said, like, if my mum knew that I was sat here talking to you, because obviously it was confidential, she'd probably pass out. And after that, but we got onto data, and we were talking about data, and I said, "Oh, I don't know if you know this, Björn, but."
Björn, are you like first name?
Well, I am now. I wasn't going to call him Mr. Alveus. That'd be a bit weird. He's a pop star. You can call him by his real name.
Yeah.
And he was talking about datas and codes. And I said, "Oh, did you know? Do you know what the ISWC, the International World Code, for Dancing Queen?" Because he's been talking about Dancing Queen. And he's like, "Tony, how would I know that?"
Yeah, that's true.
I said, "Well, they all have the same format. It's like a T and then 9 numbers."
Yeah.
I said, "Dancing Queen is T 000000001.
Oh, is it?
You have the very first ISRC." And he went,
That is a cool
This is
fact.
unbelievable. He couldn't believe it. And
That quite cool.
I've heard him
though.
tell that
That
story
is quite
like so many times. And he did sign to us, which was amazing. And then I saw him a couple of years later and he was like, Tony, how is your mother? I was like, she knows we've met now.
Oh, you've got to introduce
She
them.
has great taste in music. No, that's not good.
No, it'd be embarrassing.
That would be
yeah,
embarrassing.
Yeah, same with mine.
But I took her to Voyage. I took her to see the show.
Yeah.
She's like, this is incredible.
Yeah. Was Björn there, was he?
No, not that day.
That's quite incredible. I didn't know that. He's got the very first
one. We've been working with him now. He's obviously president of CZAC.
Yeah.
Which shows how into all this stuff
Yeah,
he is, and he's
yeah.
brilliant at lobbying. And with the AI stuff going on, he went and met the Secretary of State that's right in charge of what we do with AI as a country, and we'd spoken to Björn. He's like, well, this is my thing with AI. I wrote Dancing Queen, and that's gone well. I was like, yeah. And he said, and these AI companies want to scrape all the music and take what they've taken, which will include Dancing Queen, and have somebody else instruct it to write music using Dancing Queen. Like, don't I have a right to be paid something for that? I was like, say it to the Secretary of State just like that.
Yeah.
And the ISWC is number one. I was like, you're a legend.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You're a legend.
Mate. Well, look, thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
Good to see you,
Thanks
mate.
for having me. On the hottest day of the year.
I know. Do you know what? It started. Yeah, got the aircon went off halfway through.
Thank you for aircon SRLV.
I thought the minions would,
They try to sweat me, like an interrogation.
Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
We'll get a story out of it. No, thank you, mate, and really appreciate that.
Pleasure.